Hi everyone, it's Mari. I'm back again today for Honeybee Stamps, and I'm going to be creating this really pretty wintry slimline card for you today. This card measures at 3.5 by 8.5, and I'm going to start off here with a piece of Neenah cardstock and also the Circle Spotlight stencils and masks from Honeybee. I'm going to be using this circle mask that I'm going to be sticking down onto my cardstock here, and now I'm going to do some ink blending, and I'm going to kind of create this really wintry sky with this big white moon in up in the top left corner. I'm blending on some Distress Oxide ink in Speckled Egg to start with, using my Honeybee blending brush, and I've used some Sizzix sticky grid just to keep my paper stuck to my glass mat here. Now I'm also going to be using these really cool stencils called the Winter Wonder Background Stencils. This is a set of 6 stencils and masks that work really well for creating things like snowbanks or hilly borders or whatever it is that you want to create with for your landscape or for your backgrounds. Now I'm just taking some of these here. You can see that I just trimmed them out from these stencil sets, and I'm just going to create a variety of different shapes of snowbanks for the bottom portion of my scene here. So you can just see that I'm just going right up against the edge of that stencil to create that impression of a little bit of a snowy, hilly landscape there. And I'm totally okay with going over top of all of the white as long as I kind of have an impression of that hill or the snowy snowbank in that way, and it's kind of supposed to look like there's sort of like a reflection off the sky onto the snow and that kind of a thing. That's what I was going for here anyways. Now I thought about putting another snowbank down at the bottom, but I decided that maybe it would look better with just a little bit of blending. And now you can just see that I'm going over and I'm just strengthening up the ink there. And I also wanted to do a little bit of a darker color as well. So this is Stormy Sky. This is still Distress Oxide ink. And I'm just taking another blender here. This is just another little blending brush from my stash. And I'm just going to go around the edges of the card. So far, my slimline card base here. And just kind of strengthen up, like I said, where I already have the ink. I'm going to go back in with that stencil and just darken up against the edges of my little snowbank areas here as well. And I feel like this layering of the different colors of ink just gives it a little bit more dimension, and I just really like how that looks. I think these colors of blue are really pretty. Just looks really wintry and frosty. Now I'm taking my Distress sprayer, and I just took the mechanism out of it there, and I just tapped a little bit of water onto my oxide ink here, and now I just picked it up, and you can just see it kind of looks like a little bit of snow falling. I really like that effect. I think it's really cool, and I always love the reveal when you take a mask off. I think it's fun. Now I am going to be using the Farmhouse Tree Builder stamp set, which is one of my favorite stamp sets from the holiday cheer release. I think it's just beautiful. And one of the things I love so much about it is it's a layering stamp set. If you love layering stamp sets like I do, I just feel like they're just everything. It's so fun to work with them. And I'm going to stamp out the most solid layer of my tree here with my lightest color. And my lightest color is going to be that Stormy Sky color. So I'm going to stamp out that Stormy Sky until I am happy with how solid it is. And now I'm going to go in with the next layer of the tree, which is the branch detail. And I'm stamping that out with Faded Jeans. And that's a little bit darker than the Stormy Sky. And I just love how these complement the Speckled Egg as well. And look how beautiful that is. It's so pretty. Now I left this out overnight to dry, and this is the next day. And I'm going to take a sentiment from the Pretty Poinsettias stamp set, and I'm going to use that for my sentiment for my card. Now I'm taking my anti-static pouch and I'm adding that to my card because I thought I was going to do some embossing, but things kind of go a little bit awry here, but I left this in the process so that you could see how I fix it. Now I use my VersaFine Clair Twilight ink to stamp out my sentiment, but you can see that the second half of my sentiment is crooked. So the really beautiful thing about Honeybee stamp sets and dies is the sentiments virtually all of the time now have a coordinating die. So I took the coordinating die for the Merry and Bright sentiment. I stamped the sentiment out again. You can see that I heat embossed it with some clear heat embossing powder over top just to give it a little bit of sparkle and shine. And now I've popped it up with some foam and I put it right over top of where I stamped the other sentiment, Merry and Bright, that was crooked. So I fixed it. It's all good. Now, here you can just see I'm taking the last layer of my Farmhouse tree builder set and I'm going to emboss my little stars over top of my tree. I'm going to treat that with my anti-static powder tool again so that my embossing powder only sticks to the ink and not to my paper. And I'm just going to stamp out some embossing ink over top of or onto my tree with that stamp. And I'm going to put some silver embossing powder over top of that embossing ink. That really sticky ink allows that embossing powder to stick to it only when you use that anti-static powder tool. And then you heat it up and melt it with your embossing gun. Now I'm going to be using the Slim Line Thin Frames dies to create a frame for my card. I just want to show you here how pretty that silver embossing is. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. It turned out so nice. And now I'm going to use that frame that I cut from some silver glitter paper as a little frame around my edge of my card. And I'm just going to leave a margin. So I chose the size of frame from all of the frames that I cut so that there's a little bit of a nice margin all the way around the outside edge of my card, and I really like how that finishes it off. Now I'm going to take some silver stickles and I'm going to add those to the background. I just felt like the card needs something else, right? It would have been pretty like this, just the way that it is, but I also feel like it could use a little bit of extra bling. So I'm going to add some silver stickles, like I said, here and there. And now I'm also going to add some sequins. Now, there are a bunch of sequin mixes in the Honeybee shop that are perfect for this. There's some that have snowflakes, and there's just all kinds of really fun sequins in the Honeybee shop. And I'm going to link a bunch of them up in the description box below. You can see I added some white snowflakes, and now I'm layering some silver sequins over top of the white snowflakes. I've also got some tiny little silver stars that I'm adding, and I just love how this just finishes off my card perfectly, and it just is so pretty when it's finished. I just kind of, when I was done this today, I just sat and looked at it and thought, ooh, it's a good day. It's totally worth the big mess that's in my craft room at the end of this process. Now, I do also have a Simon Says Stamp silver metallic envelope to go along with my card, and this card is ready for the mail. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Don't forget to check the description box below for links to all of the products that I used today. Have an amazing day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you here next week. Bye-bye.